Good morning. Beautiful sunny day here. You can see the gorgeous water behind me. Look at that gorgeous coastline. Good morning. Look at this beautiful sunny day here. You see we've got some fog in the distance there, but here on this coast in San Simeon, California, it is gorgeous and sunny. You can even see in the distance, you can see that fog layer on the horizon. Good morning, Rebecca. Good morning, Robert. At this coastline. Good morning, good morning. Hello everyone, my name is Robin. I work for California State Parks on the San Luis Obispo Coast District. So that's anywhere between Montana to Oro State Park near Los Osos, California, and up past Hearst Castle, which is actually right across the street and up the hill. Might be able to get a little sneak peek of it. You can see some of the towers and palm trees up there. Right there's Hearst Castle. So we're right here in San Simeon, California, and I'm currently standing on William Randolph Hearst Memorial State Beach. And our district runs even further north, almost to Big Sur, California. So you can find me almost every Monday celebrating MPAs, or marine protected areas. Marine protected areas are much like parks that we all know and love. Places that are protected, places that are wild, places that we can visit and play in, but they're under the ocean and they're under the waves. So it's really cool to have these marine protected areas along our California coast. Here in California, we actually have 124 marine protected areas, which actually makes up the largest network of marine protected areas in the entire world. So we're really lucky here in California to have this amazing network to help protect these beautiful California coastal resources. So every Monday I like to celebrate MPAs and how amazing they are on Monday. So So thanks for joining me today. Again, I'm here at William Randolph Hearst Memorial State Beach in San Simeon, California, within Hearst San Simeon State Park. This area is also often called San Simeon Cove. And this pier that you see here, this is San Simeon Pier. And you have caught it on an absolutely gorgeous day. It is super sunny here. You can actually see about 2-3 miles south of here, it's actually extremely foggy and cloudy. And on the horizon, on the ocean, you can see that fog layer. So it's got a little pocket of sun here, which often happens on this beach because it's a south-facing beach. So most of you are probably familiar, this is the Pacific Ocean, but what's so fascinating is that this pier actually points south. So this is a south-facing coastline, south-facing beach, which often leads to a sunny beach. You can see the beach wraps around here. And then this bit right here, this is known as San Simeon Point. There's actually a really beautiful hike that cuts to San Simeon Point. And you can actually cut even further. You can see this line of cypress trees here. You can cut along there. There's almost like a pathway, an aisle of cypress trees. They call it the Cypress Tree Tunnel that you can walk through. It's a really gorgeous hike. So I mentioned marine protected areas, and that's what we like to celebrate. And what we're actually looking at right now is not a marine protected area. But what's really cool about this location is that we are flanked on both sides by marine protected areas. So to the south, in Cambria, which is only about 3, maybe 4 miles south of here, pretty much where all that fog is, we have some marine protected areas there. We have the Cambria State Marine Conservation Area, as well as the Cambria State Marine Park. And you can just think of these marine protected areas like different flavors. They're just different levels of regulation. Some allow for more take of animals, if you're an angler, a fisherman, or a fisherwoman, and some allow for some take of certain animals. So we have one to the south there, and then to the north on the other side of this point, San Simeon Point, we have a marine protected area at Piedras Blancas Light Station. So we have marine protected areas on both sides of this area, and what's really cool about that is that these areas adjacent to marine protected areas are actually benefiting. They're benefiting from these MPAs through something called the spillover effect. The spillover effect is something that happens in these marine protected areas. They're constantly being pumped with life. The wildlife is able to thrive. We're not just protecting one species, we're protecting several different species and the way they interact with each other. And so because of that, we're able to have an abundance of life created in these areas. And that abundance of life has to go somewhere. These marine protected areas are not fenced off or bordered. It's all open water, so these animals can spill over into adjacent areas, and that's exactly what happens. So you can think of these marine protected areas like band-aids for our ocean. And for anybody who's familiar with the coastline, the ocean, even if you don't live near the ocean, you probably are familiar with how our oceans are somewhat in decline. And we owe a lot to these oceans for several reasons. Not only do a lot of us get our food from the ocean, but we also get our breath from the ocean. So for humans, every 2 breaths that we take, one of them comes from the ocean. No matter where we live in the world, even if we live 5,000 miles from a coastline, every 2 breaths we take, one of them comes from the ocean. So to be able to take care of these oceans is absolutely huge. And what's so great about these marine protected areas. So you can think again of these marine protected areas like band-aids for our ocean, helping to produce life in even adjacent areas like this area here. Good morning everyone. I may be a little loud from all the wave action here. Let's see if I can zoom in on this cormorant hanging out on this rock here. Seabirds are actually really cool to watch for several reasons. Check out this wave. Seabirds are really cool to watch for several reasons. One of them is because they're actually an indicator species. So if you see a lot of seabirds near the coast, or if you're out on a boat in the ocean, it actually is showing you that there's probably a lot of food there. That's a healthy ecosystem. There's a healthy habitat happening there because there's food available for these animals. So oftentimes what we think of the ocean is exactly this, right? The surface of the water, whether we're standing on the beach like where I am now, maybe we're on a boat and we're whale watching. But often when we think of the ocean, this is what we think of. We don't actually think of what's under the waves. And so sometimes it's really hard if you're not a diver, a snorkeler, a marine biologist. It's hard to know if it's actually healthy in there. So it's really cool to be able to watch these seabirds because they can give us a clue of what's actually happening under the waves. The life that's happening there, the food that's available. If you're just joining, we're here in San Simeon, California, hanging out at William Randolph Hearst Memorial State Beach. You can find us almost every Monday celebrating marine protected areas. You can see we've got some recreators out here today. When I first got here, you might be able to see them. They're pretty far away now. We've got some stand-up paddlers out in the distance. And we've got someone else heading out in just a bit, waiting for that opportune time. This is a beautiful spot to go out via kayak or stand-up paddle. Again, we've got like a little cove here, so it's a little bit more protected than an open shoreline. Rebecca's saying, "It's so beautiful over there. Thank you for doing this." You're so welcome, Rebecca. It is beautiful. I'm so glad you could all join me today. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Maybe if you've visited MPA Mondays before, maybe this is your first time. And feel free to throw out some recommendations. If you have a favorite spot on the San Luis Obispo coast, let me know and I will try to make a visit for one of our MPA Monday live streams. Again, to give you some orientation of where we are, we're here in San Simeon, California. I'll go ahead and try to find that view of Hearst Castle just across the way. I've successfully made it past the waves. Great day for a stand-up paddle. You can actually see some of these structures in front of me here. These are also part of Hearst property. So these are now warehouses most beautiful warehouses I've ever seen. Some amazing architecture. Built by Julia Morgan. And not too long ago, if any of you are familiar with the northern elephant seal, this entire beach was covered with elephant seals. Usually they head out back into the ocean. They're actually deep sea divers. They'll head out around mid-March. So after mid-March, you usually won't see them on the coast here. See if I can get that shot of Hearst Castle for you guys. You can see some of the trees on the hilltops. So we're here at San Simeon, California on William Randolph Hearst Memorial State Beach. Omar saying, Hearst Castle, I love Hearst Castle. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. Some amazing art and architecture can be found there. And what's actually really cool about this cove here is that a lot of the art and architecture was actually brought into this cove first. So if you imagine 100 years ago in the Central Coast, it was definitely not as developed as it is now, as most places are. And even the roads weren't very developed. There was a windy dirt road cruising up the California coast. So you can imagine that things being shipped from Europe and across the world generally were being shipped into Los Angeles and would have had to come up from Los Angeles by vehicle up to Hearst Castle, right across the highway here. There's a nice shot with some of the structures. So to mitigate destruction of these beautiful pieces, some things were, over thousands and thousands of years old. So to mitigate destruction, what they actually did is instead of shipping it into Los Angeles and driving it up the California coast on a bumpy, windy dirt road, they actually brought it into this cove right here, which actually made it ideal. Things shipping from all over the world, different sculptures, tapestries, pieces of art, different materials to actually build the castle itself. Heavy, fragile pieces. Think of heavy blocks of marble would come right into this cove here. And all they had to do is take it up the hill here from San Simeon Cove up to Hearst Castle. Robert says he's tuning in from Newhall, California. Romy says, hi Robin, looks like a great day to be at the Cove. So lucky to live in a marine protected area. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Romy. Yeah, it's beautiful. We're really lucky here, for those of us that live in California, to have these marine protected areas along our coastline. Look how absolutely gorgeous this is. And again, this area right here is not a marine protected area, but we are flanked by MPAs. One to the north of us at Piedras Blancas, and one to the south in Cambria. And this area that we're looking at right here is massively benefiting from these areas. These marine protected areas are just pumping life into the rest of our oceans. Serving like a charging station almost. Charging the rest of our oceans with life and productivity, healthy, biodiverse habitats. And this is what's known as the spillover effect. So having this network of marine protected areas is really cool because we're able to have so much spillover into adjacent waters. So happy that you all were able to join me today on such a sunny, beautiful day. I want to thank you all for taking the time to tune in and chat with me. Of course, I'd much rather have you here, walking along the shore with me, touching the sand, checking out what we can find. We've got a nice little air bladder here. This air bladder actually comes from a kelp stalk. This is actually a really important part of the kelp forest. So this air bladder is actually filled with air. The fancy name for it is pneumaticist. And how this actually works is it's attached to a blade, which is very similar to a leaf. It's attached to a blade, and it brings that blade up closer to the surface of the water. I've got a better example here. This one actually has it attached, so we have our air bladder, our pneumaticist, and then we have our blade, our kelp blade. Again, it looks very much like a leaf. And this kelp actually survives only on sunlight. So this algae actually photosynthesizes. But how on earth is something able to photosynthesize in the ocean? If it's several feet down, maybe 20, 30 feet below the surface of the ocean, there's much less sunlight there than all of these plants that we see on land, right? They have the lucky ability to be able to photosynthesize very easily because they're directly in the sun. Whereas this algae, this kelp, does not have that luxury. So what this pneumaticist, this air bladder does, is actually brings the blade up closer to the surface of the water, bringing it closer to sunlight, allowing it to photosynthesize. So if you ever see these fun little things, they look like little peppers sometimes. If you ever see these on the beach, amongst the beach rack, all the stuff that you see that washes up, this is all beach rack. That's exactly what this is. It's an air bladder. A very, very important part of the kelp stalk. Fun little tip. Hello, Tom from Sparks, Nevada. Thank you for bringing me back home today. You're so welcome, Tom. Omar says, thank you for sharing. You're so welcome, Omar. Gwen says, thank you for doing these. I love them. Oh, that makes me so happy. Again, I would much rather have you here so you can actually feel this, the air bladder, the kelp, the sand, the sun on your skin, the breeze. It's absolutely gorgeous out. But what's really cool about having these virtual programs, the silver lining is that you might not be able to physically get here. You may live in Sparks, Nevada. You may live on the East Coast. And so to be able to bring this beautiful California sunshine and coastal views to you all through this virtual platform is pretty great. I want to thank you all again so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Robin with California State Parks. Make sure to let me know any recommendations that you guys have. If you want to visit a beautiful spot on the San Luis Obispo coast, just let me know down below. For those of you who are interested in watching these, if you have friends or family who don't have Facebook, do let them check out our YouTube page at San Luis Obispo Coast District, because we are posting those over on YouTube as well for those non-Facebook users. As you can see, I am in a public space and I am wearing a mask. But I'm going to go ahead and take it off so you can actually see what I look like and see my smile. Thank you so much for joining me today. Look at this beautiful coastline behind me. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and most importantly, stay kind. Bye everyone.